Since its founding, the Black Voters Matter Fund has been empowering African Americans traveling the nation, speaking about the importance of mobilizing and organizing Black voters, speaking to them and touching them, not just in the cities, but in rural parts of the country as well, not just in large places, but also in rural towns as well. Since 2020, they played a crucial role in flipping Georgia. That's what paved the way for Biden and Harris to win that state, for Raphael Warnock and Ossoff to win in 2020, and then for Warnock to come back, because they were talking to regular and ordinary voters. And so while they have been doing that, they also have been working on a documentary about the work that they do. Here's a sneak peek.
The bus is here! The bus is here!
In spite of coronavirus, in spite of economic challenges, in spite of racism and police violence, in spite of everything that we are facing, here you are, still standing. If you don't know nothing else, know this: you matter, you are loved, and you got power.
Well, members of the Black Voters Matter Fund are making stops in 14 states. It's a national outreach initiative all about encouraging people to get out and vote.
You can't miss it. The blackest bus in America. Spread the word.
When we say the blackest bus in America, we wanted it to be the bus that affirmed Black people. We wanted to be the bus that got Black folks excited, right?
How y'all doing, Montgomery? We gonna vote in record numbers.
People will break out in song and dance. People break down crying because of just the imagery that's on the bus.
Their goal: to bring a message of power and hope to minority communities in smaller cities and towns, which can many times be ignored by political parties. They also work to fight what organizers call voter suppression.
We have the kind of power that is merged with love. We're talking about righteous power. We need that kind of power. We deserve that kind of power. And I'm gonna tell you one other thing: we got that kind of power.
Darkness cannot survive if light comes in the room. And so we got to be a light unto the world.
We're traveling through the states that are essentially the former Confederacy, what arguably still is hostile territory. We've been through a lot. People are tired, people are sick, people are literally dying. We got attacks on the Postal Service, the moving of polling places, the restrictions, and the photo ID. What the fuck?
There is no reason in the middle of this rain for that house to catch fire.
No, they need to come get us. We're not staying here.
So that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to set them high-level hotels. They're used to seeing high-level folks that they got security. So that's what we're gonna have to go to. Because the bus can be secured.
Any number of people saw the blackest bus in America pull up and drop a couple of people off at this house. What we do is not a joke. It's just not a joke.
You know, they put the fire out, they sent the arson team, they're still investigating.
You know, the primary purpose was intimidation and fear. They were trying to send a message.
Racism is damn traumatic. I mean, just damn traumatic. Like, why the hell we gotta go through this, right? I'm mad. I'm scared. I feel determined too. I mean, we ain't about to go nowhere. We can't stop, won't stop, so we ain't about to stop.
Now, folks, they are working to finish that documentary, and they're doing a crowd fund to do so. This is where you can go to. It shows information in terms of where you can give to do that. They're using the fundraising platform Act Blue. So we're going to have that on our website as well. Joining us right now is LaTosha Brown, one of the co-founders. Also, we're going to be chatting with Cliff Albright, co-founder as well. A lot of this, we saw a lot of that video of LaTosha was in 2020. COVID hit. And I remember being in Georgia at the end of Georgia, those 5 weeks. And it was rough when you're talking about having these events and these rallies and, you know, how you're spaced out and everything. It was a challenge to organize and mobilize folks to vote.
It was absolutely rough. It was an interesting time for our people. You know, at one point, Georgia, particularly South Georgia, had the highest number of hospitalizations related to COVID per capita in the country. And so it was a very serious time in terms of our health, but it was also a serious time we felt for our communities. And that's why we made sure that we got out there. And so that's part of the reason why we want to lift up the film in this moment. You know, in this moment, we want to tell the story, not just based on what happened in 2020, but we want to remind people of a couple things. One, we want to remind people that we beat Trump. That sometimes what winds up happening, this idea that he is unbeatable or invincible, or they're not. No, they can be beat, but it's going to take organizing, it's going to take strategy, it's going to take us doing work together collectively, and we do have to do some things different because we're in a different moment. One of the reasons when we're talking about from Black history, you know, what we know is that there's this attack and this erasure on Black history. And I think part of the time we're not recognizing that attack on Black history is not just because people we're just going to attack Black history as it's random. No, what I really believe it is that they want us to forget our wins. They want us to forget our victories, that even in the midst of all the things that have happened to us, and the midst of voter suppression, of the racism, all of those things, that ultimately when Black people work together, we can win. And so I think that is important. We want to lift that message up around this is a moment for us we should be anchored in this idea of building Black power. We should be thinking of ourselves as a nation within a nation, that we have to organize ourselves, that we can't constantly be in a space that we're only responding to those who are seeking to oppress us, but that we are also, as we are building and organizing, we also have to really be set in the context of how will we protect our communities, how will we fortify ourselves, and how will we move forward.
Cliff, this is a photo of us in 2020. That was 4.5 years ago. And this probably was about 20 pounds ago. So if all of us could get back to that size, that'll be great. That was a photo we took. I forgot. We were in Warner Robins. That was December 6th, 2020. That's LaTosha with the Santa cap, Tiffany Lofton, myself, and you. And, you know, it was, you know, car rallies. It was all sort of different things. But the thing about that moment, Black folks were lit in Georgia. The opportunity to elect the first Black Democratic senator from the South. The first Black senator since Reconstruction was Edward Brooke in Massachusetts. Then, of course, that was Tim, that other dude in South Carolina. And so you had that going on. But then you had the opportunity to elect a second Democratic senator who was all about Black values. And this is the thing that I think is important. I had these two trolls on my Instagram page. See, he one of them Democratic shields. I'm like, no, folk were looking at who supported the stuff Black folks wanted. And in that race, it was Perdue or Loeffler or Warnock and Ossoff, and it wasn't even a close race. That's what I keep trying to tell these folks. This is not about, well, I'm trying to elect a Democrat or Republican. No. It was about who is going to represent Black interests, who's going to represent Warner Robins and Albany and Savannah and those rural towns in the United States Senate.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Roland. You know, you could go back and listen to a lot of the video footage that we took during that whole tour that night that we were with you in Warner Robins and throughout this documentary, and you'll hear us consistently saying, especially in that runoff part, that look, this is about our health care, right? This is about COVID in particular, but this is about our health care. This is about voting rights. This is about police violence. We were hit those issues consistently everywhere we went. And why were we hitting those issues? Because as you say, those were the issues that people were talking about. Those were the issues that people were most concerned about. Those were the issues, especially police violence, that had people in the streets throughout the summer and fall of 2020. And so part of the purpose of this documentary is to show the power of that, right? It's to show what happens when you're speaking to the issues and speaking to the issues in a way that people resonate with, right? It's about showing, the title of this documentary is about love, joy, and power, right? And so it's about showing the ways that love and joy is not just a vibe, but the way that you actually incorporate that into your organizing work, right? And so there's a whole lot of lessons that we want to come out of showing this documentary, showing the way the work that is done, showing the bridge that we believe. Look, LaTosha and I say it all the time. We consider ourselves students of the civil rights movement. That doesn't mean that we only do things just the way they did it in the 50s and 60s, but it does mean that we ground our work in that methodology, in that science of organizing. And we need that now this year more than ever, right? That's part of the reason, I've been talking about looking at the letter from Birmingham jail. So that's what we want to come out of this documentary, for folks to understand the way that the organizing takes place, the way that voters get mobilized, the way that we have to ground this work in this history, that, as LaTosha said, that they're trying to take away. We believe that there's some fundamental lessons from that 2020 and 2021 experience that can get us out of these times that we're in right now.
And the thing that was interesting to me when these things were happening, this was a rally that was in Savannah, Georgia, that y'all did. It was Common, Kiki Palmer. This was before he lost his mind, Waka Flocka, and Tammy Rivera. Waka Flocka now is a big time Trump person. And the thing here is that what people did not understand, and why all this was so important, is because Black folk were allowing their power to remain on the couch. So you had folk who did not want to organize the state, who did not want to spend the resources on the state. They didn't want to do any of that. And so people talk about Stacey Abrams' group, all folks who did that here. But even after that, you still had the folk who were going door to door. Y'all was sitting here who came up with the idea to hand out some greens?
The collard green caucus.
And black eyed peas and cornbread mix.
That's right. So it's literally we were on a call and we were talking about the Georgia runoff and about how we need to try to find ways to get people to come back out. People were already tired from the November election. So, we were dealing with the holidays, right? Because we're like, not only do we have to get people to come back out, but we got to do all this work in the midst of the holidays, in the midst of Christmas, in the midst of New Year's. So we said, well, how do we incorporate the culture? And we said, look, what are people going to be doing naturally? What are people going to be looking for naturally? We know that for New Year's, what do? We cook up some collard greens and some black-eyed peas. So what if we did something where we were able to do three things? One, that we were able to get people a concrete need. Our people needed some food at that time. This is still in the middle of COVID, right? So how do we get people a concrete need? How do we create an opportunity to mobilize people to get them information about the early vote, because that was taking place during the early vote period. And then the third issue, and people lose sight of this, but it's important, especially right now, our farmers were going through hell. Black farmers were going through hell. And so this was a way for us to connect to them, to find an outlet for them to bring their produce. And so we were meeting three very specific needs all in one program. We call it the Collard Green Caucus. So the idea of the program, we came up with collectively. I think I may have suggested it on the call, but the name, I have to give shout out to Wanda Mosley, who was our national field director at the time. She came up with the name Collard Green Caucus, and we've been doing it ever since. So it was birthed in this emergency situation, but it's become a regular part of our work, which means regularly we are supporting Black farmers, regularly we are feeding our people, and regularly we are using it as a tool to organize our communities. And I got to say this, Roland. I got to say this real quick, because I'm looking at this footage. You might have, other than the documentary crew, I think you might have more footage of us from 2020 and 2021 than anybody else.
Yo, so I was, just so folks know, I was literally, let me close this out. So y'all now go to my computer. Like literally, I'm sitting here going, that was the rally in Columbus, Georgia. I pulled up the Savannah rally. Here was another rally. That were the rallies y'all had in this. I see Albany, Georgia, right here. That was a rally y'all had in D.C. This another one we had in Georgia. So yeah, we basically moved in that year. We basically moved to, matter of fact, let's see, here's another one right here. Let me pull this one up. Y'all can see we had the drone action going there as well for these rallies. And so it was like we were there, out there on the ground, not playing around. And what was interesting to me, matter of fact, hold up, let me go ahead, because some of y'all may think I'm joking. So here is LaTosha and Cliff. Give me a second, it's gonna pull up in action. So yeah, we got lots of stuff. So we got stuff. Matter of fact, pull the audio up. See, the reason I remember that, the audio person who they brought in wasn't doing his job, and we were really pissed off that he had it was overmodulated, and it was like, this is no lie. Y'all think I'm lying. That was one of the reasons why we said we buying our own audio equipment, because we can't depend on, because I never forget, and even y'all like, man, you didn't get the audio straight. It was somebody else brought in that y'all didn't bring in. But yeah, we got lots of stuff. But what people need to understand, that was the only way our folk could find out what was going on. So the networks were not covering it. So when y'all hit me, and also y'all financially supported us that year, what happened was the networks, they were showing a little stuff, but because of streaming, what happened was y'all were like, all right, we're going to be in this place, this place, this place. We said, great, we're going to be there, have the Roll Mobile, we're streaming it, and we were able to talk directly to our people. And there were people who were in those towns who were like, yo, I couldn't make it to y'all rally, but we saw the stream.
That's right.
And that's why Black organizers working with Black-owned media is so important, because we were both helping each other out.
Absolutely. Roland, I just got to lift you up in this moment. The truth of the matter is you have been the platform and the voice for the Black community. We are so grateful for you. We have never asked you for support or help or to cover, and you have not done it. You have been, I remember you came with us with Texas. We've been in these streets, but you've been in these streets too. And you've been in these streets with us. And so we're so grateful to be in partnership with you. And I am hoping that people know in this moment that literally we have to support Black media. So while we are really in this space and we want to be able to lift up these stories, we also need these platforms like your platform so that we can continue to share our stories, that we continue to share the unfiltered truth, that we can continue to connect our people, because we really got to know what time it is. We're not in the same space that we were before November 5th. We are in a different reality. America, the idea of America as we know it, that's over with, y'all. There may be some elements of that are still, but the truth of the matter is we've got to think differently. We've got to organize differently. We got to act differently. We're watching the networks fire Black journalists, credible, powerful Black journalists who actually have high ratings, not because of any other thing, but this attack on anti-Blackness right now. We are watching these networks capitulate, right? All of the major networks have been capitulating to this new administration and what is this administration and what's happening. Black people have always had to have institutions to protect their interests. That is why, right after slavery ended, Black folks were creating and building banks, because we knew we couldn't go bank with other folks and they were going to do right by us. We had to create hospitals because we knew that we needed care for ourselves, and we may go to other hospitals and they would not take care of us. We educated ourselves. Public education in this country, in this nation right now, is because of Black people. That if people are thinking about really around the New Deal, that the New Deal was actually shaped. Folks don't know it. We give credit to FDR, but the truth of the matter is It was the Black cabinet, right? Who really, or many of the things that were in the New Deal, it was Black folks that came out of Black innovation. That when we're thinking about even the modern day domestic workers and labor movement, that was Black folks. And so we have to really, and my thought is, we've got to get back in this space that we are imagining, that we are dreaming, that we are creating, that we are building, that we see ourselves building. And part of our offering around this film, this isn't a film that we commissioned. The filmmakers came to us and said they wanted to follow us. We didn't know what to expect. They just followed us they went everywhere we went. They came into our homes. They saw the conflicts that we were working through. They saw when we engaged, and a lot of that is captured in this film. And so it's important for us to tell our stories so we don't forget.
Yep.
We don't forget that we have power, and we don't forget that, like, that is organizing. That has always been the best tool we've had to beat against and push up against oppression.
This was at Black Caucus. I was talking with you and Cleola Brown. That's what I do remember, because I had to give that artist a lesson. We were in the middle of a live interview and he was taking his art down. And I was like, say, dog, aren't you trying to make some money? You might want to leave the art up because you're getting free publicity. He was like, oh, my bad. You're right. You sure did. Remember that. I was like, dude, what you doing? The thing, Cliff, I'm going to ask you this question before I go to my panel with their questions. The thing here is this here. We've seen successive elections where the Black turnout has gone down. It was a high 2008, the election of Obama. This is the thing that it keeps driving me crazy. I keep saying, Black people, if we showed what happens when we maximize our vote. If I'm correct, I'm trying to remember, the Black turnout in 2008 was higher than the white turnout, was by percentage. Now, there are more white people in America, but in terms of turnout, I think we were almost at 70%. I keep saying, if we, in places where our numbers are significant, if we get to 70% turnout of our capacity, we win elections statewide. And so we just saw what happened in Louisiana. 37% of the people who voted early, Black. We saw what happened when we don't turn out. The white candidate in St. Louis wins 64-36 over the Black female incumbent mayor. So what, in your perspective, what does it take for us to understand that the couch cannot be an option? That if we say these are the things that we want, turnout and voting is a part of that, making that happen?
Yeah, definitely, and that's the conversation that we have all the time when we're in these streets and talking to people. Is trying to convince them of that. And some people, that's an easier conversation, right? It takes less convincing than others. It's a function of several things, though, right? There's what has to take place on, like, internally within our community, within our mindset, to believe in that, right? Sometimes that's also a function. Just in all honesty, it's also a function of, like, what have the results been after we do that, right? And so, like, if we do all this galvanizing and Black folks come out in record numbers, and then the folks that we put in office, do crazy stuff, like not ending the filibuster or not getting certain pieces of legislation passed. And there's discussions around, like, some of the systemic blockages, right? But there's that piece of it, that there are people that will block the progress because they know that once you block the progress, that makes the people that had just been mobilized feel like, oh, I wasted my time, I'm not getting the results. But that takes a complicated conversation in our communities that has got to take place 365 days a year. That's why Black Star Network is so important, and your shows are so important, because we got to drive that message home consistently. We got to drive the message home about the connection between the elections and policy and some of the systemic barriers. We got to have that conversation consistently. We know that our turnout matters. That's why you right here on this show, you all were just talking about the SAVE Act, right, that the House just passed, and how that is a direct attack against the freedom to vote, against our voting rights, and it's rooted in anti-Blackness. Truth be told, we tried to tell people for years that if you continue to say, well, what's wrong with voter ID? What's the big deal about voter ID? And what we would always say is voter ID is just an on-ramp to them doing a whole bunch of other things to try to make it harder for people to register and harder for people to vote. And now here we are, right? And so all of that is a part of the mix. But you are absolutely right that we have got to continue to have this conversation to get people to understand that we have the power. If we turn out in those numbers, there's not an election, local, even state, I would say, especially in the South, especially places like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, and Alabama. If we consistently were to turn out at 70%, then we can win these things.
Absolutely. Questions, I'll start with Reese first.
First, thank you all for your leadership. It is so invaluable and so appreciated. I'm just curious, it's a little off topic, but have you all been engaged at all in what's happening in North Carolina? And if not specifically in North Carolina, helping Black people understand kind of the next salvo of disenfranchisement and the war against Black voters that's coming up in 2026 and in 2025, because there are critical elections this year as well.
Yeah. So I'll start, and Cliff, and you can add in. So the truth of the matter, even in the film, I lift up the film in the documentary. I think North Carolina is one of the places that we're in, because it's one of the states that we're committed to. We have states that are our core target states that we always work in 365 days out of the year. And our model of how we work is, as an organization, we work with grassroots groups. We do three things. We move money to grassroots groups, Black-led grassroots groups that are doing power building work, not necessarily just electoral work, but work to power building. It may be around a reparations agenda. It may be around a police brutality issue, and it may be around an election. And so we have partners in each of our states, like in North Carolina, we're ongoing working anywhere between 20 to 100 grassroots Black-led groups that oftentimes it's not just around us, the message that we have, but there are people that are capable organizers that are indigenous to those communities that have been doing the work, that all they need is some resources, a little support, and really helping with lifting up their message. And so we work with those folks as well. And so we have been working in North Carolina from the gerrymandering issue all the way up to now. We are ongoing working with them. And I'll turn it off to Cliff so he can share as well some of our current stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear on this specific issue, we have been involved. Our state team in North Carolina has been involved with our partners in a lot of the organizing. Hell, I was there in North Carolina on election day, right? A lot of people were focused on Georgia and some other places, but I was in North Carolina on election day because I knew how important those elections were. But we've been engaged ever since that election day, making sure that all the votes got counted, making sure that all those recounts were done, in a way that wouldn't disenfranchise our folks. And throughout this battle over these 60-something thousand votes that they're trying to throw out, we've been involved, our staff and our partners. I got to give a shout out to folks like Advanced Carolina and the Blueprint Table in North Carolina. We've been at the Capitol, at many of these sessions and many of these courts and all of that. And so we've been involved at that stage, and we're involved right now. We've already sent out a text campaign to Black voters, matching the list that's available, saying, hey, check this list. If you're on this list, this is what you need to do to get it cured. If you're not on this list, don't just call it a day. Go on and forward this message to 5 of your friends so that they can look and see if they're on the list. So we've been involved in a lot of the outreach efforts directly related to curing these ballots so that these 60-something thousand don't get thrown away.
Nola?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do for you both. And I'm just so excited about this documentary. And LaTosha, my question is more around messaging. I know that we are in the Persist group, well, at least in the group chat. And I've been talking about how excited I've been to talk to you all day. Because, as you mentioned, we are in a very different time. All the old, toolkits thrown out the window. The way that we used to do business, the way that we used to talk about politics, all of that has changed. And so I'm very curious if you've all been testing in the field, national messages that have been landing and local messages that have been landing. And if there's some, if they're parallel, if it's the same message, because as the Dems have been dinged a lot, even before going into this election, that it's always kind of not so much a messaging problem more than it's like a branding problem. Like we were talking about the SAVE Act earlier and how irritated I am that it's called the SAVE Act because it's anything but Republicans know how to brand. So I'm very curious, what have you all been finding success with out in the field regarding messaging?
You know, it's interesting that you say that, and I'm really excited. Thank you for that question. First thing I'll say is, I don't know if people always say that the Republicans are good at messaging. I don't know if I think that. I think they're good at lying. Like if I can lie and make something up, I got some amazing stories that I could share. Like if I can just create stuff, yeah, you might be entertained with my work too, right? But ultimately, you know, I think that the messaging has to really be able, not just around sensationalizing, but really it has to be rooted in truth. And so part of what, to your point, the Democrats have not been good messengers, particularly to Black people, right? One of the reasons why that's like a core strategy for us around messaging is because oftentimes that we don't hear messages that are really related to us. And sometimes it's not that you got to shift and come up with the best sensational message. Part of why we've heard that over and over again with all of the ads of the $7 billion that the Democrats spent on the last election cycle, that much of that went back to these communications firms that convinced them that they need to be on television, that they need to be on traditional network TV, so that they could get these messages out and these advertisement pieces out. And ultimately what wound up happening is there were messages that didn't land and many of us weren't there. That what we're finding is when we're talking to our people, like many of our young folks they're getting their information from the internet, from YouTube. They're listening to shows on TikTok, on social media, just as if this platform, like social media, I think network TV is really in a downward decline in this moment. And so it really is key around us having a message. And what we found that has always worked, that always having a message of hope. You always got to be authentic. You have to have an authentic message that is not just about you telling people what they need to believe and think. That oftentimes folks always want to come in our communities and tell us what we need to do. They always tell us like we ain't smart, like I don't know what I need, right? That part of, I think, the process of even shaping your message is having the humility, having the organizing and the infrastructure to actually listen to people so that you can really listen to what's landing on them. And so oftentimes without organizing, it's not about just the message that we're trying to put on them like an advertisement. It is literally the message is being shaped by what they're telling us. That the message in Alabama, there may be a message in Alabama or something going on in Alabama that can ignite people that is distinctively different from North Carolina. I think the foundation of the base that Black folks want what everybody else wants. We want quality education. Much of that hasn't changed. We want quality education. We want to get paid. We want economic equity. We want to make sure that we actually are able to build our communities, that we have safety and security and economic security, those things. We often work with folks who are pollsters and getting data to make sure that we're really in tune with what the message is. But the truth of the matter is the way we actually get our messages is we out in these streets and we talk to our people and we hear from them. What is it that you care about? And part of the reason why I think that's been really why our messaging has been really successful, not just in a branding game, because I want you to know who I am, but in a space that we're actually using this platform, that God has given us this platform that we've actually built over time to really be able to integrate Black voices, be in relationship with Black communities 365 days out of the year so that we're getting real-time information so we can tailor our messages to our people.
Greg?
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Cliff and LaTosha. As always, you all, more than inspiration, which you certainly do, you instruct. And you instruct through your actions. And not only am I always inspired by you, I'm always instructed by you as well in terms of how to do this. And thank you, LaTosha, for saying that. Good seeing you a couple of weeks ago at the 14th Amendment Center, sis. You really weighed in as always. I just donated. I see that you all posted the trailer on the YouTube channel, which also has the link. So, but before you all go, I know Roland's going to reiterate this, tell people where to go so we can all support making this documentary. And you both mentioned the SAVE Act, as you heard earlier, as Roland kind of opened the show with it. If this act passes, particularly, LaTosha, since you've been kind of really taken a clear-eyed view as to what this country is and who we are and how we have always intervened to protect our interests, regardless of what they were doing. Any advice on how we should be moving now in terms of preparing ourselves in the wake of all these executive orders and these bills, but particularly this SAVE Act? I mean, should people be trying to get their documents, their birth certificates, maybe a passport? I mean, any insight on that? And again, thank you both for just incredible work.
Thank you, brother. And we appreciate you because we are always inspired by you. Like, I think Black scholarship and reminding us, and I'm really serious about that. I do believe that part of this attack on our history is to make us forget our victories and to make us forget that we win, that we have when we win and how we've won in terms of it has been our resistance that has led to the outcomes that we have. It has not been our capitulated to we gonna get along. That ain't never got us nowhere. It has never gotten us anywhere. It has actually been our organizing, our having a clear vision, leadership that really is courageous, and for us to stand in a space that we are not really surrendering. And so as it relates to the SAVE Act, I think it's important in this moment, there's a couple of things. In this moment, I do believe that as it passes, as we've been telling people, we've got to get some things lined up that to make sure that you do have your ID. Do everything that you can within your power to make sure that you can actually maintain voting, right? Because we don't even know how long that voting system is going to be up, to be honest. We don't even know how long we're going to have the elections. But why it's really particularly national, but why it's particularly important is because why voting is important, particularly on the local and the state level. That what we need people to do, we need to be relentless about taking power. If Black folks are the majority, it is inexcusable that we're not running that city, that state, that county, whatever right? We have to make sure that we are leaning into using every tool that is available to us to build power. I'm the first to say, even though my entire adult life I've done voting work, I'm the first person to say that I do not believe that voting is the only tool that we're going to use to actually get our liberation. But what I do believe is that voting, that when you are at war, when people are fighting your community, you have to be relentless about power. Wherever you can find it, wherever you can get it, wherever you can leverage it. You have to leverage it for a couple of ways. One, you've got to use it and you've got to vote so you can actually reduce the harm happening in your community. The second thing is you got to send a message. When people come for you, there has to be consequences. When people are coming against our community, we have to create what blacklist and hold them accountable. I think it's also really important that we're documenting that in this moment, that if the SAVE Act passes, all of us need to be prepared now. We don't need to just wait for then. We need to really be able to fortify organizations that are doing this work, fortify your own self and your own household to make sure that you got IDs and you got the requirements so that you can make sure and to check your status. It's important for you. Status. What they're planning in the state of Georgia currently right now is to do the largest purge this summer. They're talking about doing the largest voter purge in the state of Georgia this summer in the history of this country. That's over 500,000 people that they're saying. So what we really need to do, we have to use voting as a vehicle, as one of our tools, of our many tools that we can use to build power and be relentless with that, which means we need to be prepared in terms of getting our information together. We need to be fortified and I think part of the way that you fortify is organizations, whether it's NAACP, whether it's Black Voters Matter, whether it's Georgia Stand Up, whether it's a national coalition on Black civic participation. This is the moment, y'all, that you need to make sure that Black organizations that are on the front lines doing this work, that they are supported, that you are fortifying them, that you are sending resources, that you are volunteering, that you are tuning in. That is another part of that. And then we've got to be ready to do what we need to do, whether that means as we organize. I'm thinking about in Mississippi, I've been thinking a lot about in Mississippi, with the formation of Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. We also got to create some alternatives to let folks know that we are not going to be, our life is not going to be dependent on the whimsical nature of a political party, a candidate, or white people. We're just not doing that no more. And so what we've got to do is fortify ourselves, use the tools that are available while they are available, also build as we are doing that. We've got to build this context. And so with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, when they were not allowed to vote in the quote regular election, they had their own elections Over 80,000 people participated in the election. They organized themselves, created the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, sent a delegation led by Sister Fannie Lou Hamer, right, and turned it out and shut it. In many ways, they changed and opened up the space for Black folks within that context because they dared to be different, that they actually used their power and organized themselves. And so I think in this moment, we need to be thinking like that as well.
All right, folks, if you want to support the documentary, okay, so here's what we got to do. Where do folk go, Cliff and LaTosha? Because, all right, so here's the deal. I went to actblue.com, all right? So then I typed in, go to my iPad, I typed in Black Voters Matter. Also, some people in the chat were asking me, does Black Voters Matter have a PAC? I said they do. So y'all see right here, they have Black Voters Matter Capacity Building Institute, they have Black Voters Matter Fund, Black Voters Matter Action PAC. All right, here's the problem. When I type in y'all name, this doesn't come up. This is the actual place where you give for the documentary. So, and I typed in Black Voters Matter in Act Blue's search box. This page doesn't come up. I typed in love, joy, and power. It doesn't come up. So where do we send people to donate, to give, to finish the documentary? Where do they go? What's the easy place for them to go?
Yeah, so there's a couple of places they can go. The easiest is if they have the direct link, and I think that we've got it in the comments on the page. It's a bit.ly/love and power. And
but if they is it on y'all site? What's the easiest? Like if I tell somebody, yo, go to Black Voters
to our social media. Yeah,
no. But it's on y'all website, blackvotersmatter.com.
Yes, it's on our website and it's on any one of our social medias. So if they go to our Twitter or X or Facebook or IG or whatever Threads, all of them are the same handle, Black Voters MTR, and you'll see a post on there that's got the trailer and it has the donation link. Or you just go straight to our website, Black Voters Matter Fund, with a D at the end, .org.
Okay. All right. Okay. So hold up. I'm on blackvotersmatterfund.org. All right. This is it right here. What am I clicking? Like, what am I specifically for the doc? Because I'm looking. I see show your support. I got that. I see stay informed. I got that. There's a donate button up top. What does that go to?
It's in the news section.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Roland, I just went to the Black Voters Matter Fund YouTube channel. Y'all got it. Y'all got
No. I got that. Follow what I'm saying. If I'm in Raleigh tomorrow, if I mention I want to be able to give go to this website to give. The problem, go to the YouTube channel. I got to find it. So I would just say, hey, I would just put a button on the website, on your main website, that take them to the doc. I try to make it as easy as possible where I can send somebody to go there to support the doc. Because I thought if I say, hey, go to actblue.com, type in Black Voters Matter, it doesn't come up. That's why I did it. Just so maybe y'all let Act Blue folks know that people need to be able to type in Black Voters Matter. Like I just show y'all. No, that's not it. Like right here. If you type in Black Voters Matter in the directory, you type that in, you hit return, it should be one of the ones that come up for the doc. It should come up on that search box. So just let them know. There's a lot easier for folk to be able to get to donate, okay?
Okay, definitely. But it's me. We'll add that onto the website, but definitely go to any one of the social media channels and you'll be able to find it pretty easy as well. But thank you, Roland, for lifting that up. And I just one last thing, because the fundraising is important, but one last thing on that SAVE Act and to Professor Carr's question, we got to try to block, right, the current legislation because it's not a done deal. I think I heard Professor Carr say that earlier.
It's not.
It's not a done deal. And as long as the Democrats in the Senate don't do what 4 of them did in the House, that's a whole nother story that we need to come back to.
Yeah, I need to find who those 4 were. I need to find their names.
Yeah, and I think a couple of them were the same ones that voted against Representative Green on that censure vote. So they just got a history of running amok. So we got to block. We also got to litigate. We good for suing folks, right? And so Black Voters Matter has been in a bunch of lawsuits. We might be in a lawsuit over the SAVE Act. We got to prepare in the ways that LaTosha was explaining, right, in terms of like getting our documents and all that good stuff. But the fourth thing is critically important, because we got to understand, and we've all made this point, these are not normal times. This is not just a matter of a policy difference. This is a matter of them trying to install a dictatorship and one-party rule. And at some point, I've said it before, we are going to have to hit the streets, right? Right now it's the white folks, and most of us are chilling and learning the boots on the ground and all that. But we got to be clear, we are going to have to hit the streets, because they are not playing about trying to install a dictatorship.
All right, so y'all know I don't waste no time. So here y'all go. The 4 Democrats that voted for the SAVE Act: Jared Golden, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, Henry Cuellar down in Texas, and Ed Case. Golden tweeted that some claim that requiring proof of citizenship is too onerous a burden, or that it will disenfranchise those whose names have changed for reasons like marriage. The truth is, the SAVE Act ensures name changes will not prevent anyone from registering to vote. You know they lying. All right, folks, I appreciate it. Cliff and LaTosha, thank you so very much. Keep up the good work.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.